She says if you actually do 100% of what works, then guess what? 0% of what doesn't, and you can actually have the life that you dream about. So we all want to live our highest potential and experience what Susan is talking about. So Susan, I'm excited to keep going.
Well, this they want to experience.
That's right.
Maybe the other things you weren't so interested in. This one you're going to be really interested in.
It's all good. Now, I know, Susan, we really need to jump right in, and please explain to our viewers what the definition of twin flames actually is, because I know there's a lot of confusion about this.
So a lot of you know what a soulmate is, or what two soulmates are. This is about 1,000 steps up. So twin flames are a couple, and it could be any sort of couple. It could be two women, two men, or a heterosexual couple. And they are destined for each other, they're destined with each other, and they are with one another lifetime after lifetime for infinity. The only trick is they have to find one another. And that can really be like a needle in a haystack.
Quite an adventure to get there, isn't it? Now, why is the twin flame relationship actually so different from traditional love relationships and marriage?
First of all, the stakes are so much higher. You know, in the old days, in the Wild West, you would marry someone when you were maybe 15, and each of you might live to be about 35. And so you had 20 years, and you knew that somebody was going to die possibly sooner. The women were dying in childbirth all the time. So you didn't have to look at this person and go, okay, can I spend 85 years with her? I don't think so. So it's a completely different thing. This is someone who is a perfect fit in every possible way. Someone who completes you, someone who supports you, someone who enhances you, and vice versa. This is body, mind, and spirit. And I have to tell you, sometimes it feels as if you have to walk through fire in order to get this relationship. As Prince Charles and Camilla, who are finally married after about 30 years, finally walked through enough fire to the other side.
Is it mostly about moving beyond tradition and social norms?
You know, a lot of times it is. If you saw the movie Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which starred Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, who were themselves in a twin flame relationship, which was a very non-traditional relationship, given that he was married and wouldn't divorce his wife. Then the story in the movie is about Sidney Poitier, an African American, falling in love with a young woman who happened to be played by Katharine Hepburn's niece, and what he was willing to do, and the question facing him of whether he was going to marry her, given the incredible love and passion they felt for each other or not. And you see this throughout history. There was a movie, Loving, where they weren't willing to give each other up, even though, of course, it was against the law in those days. By the time you got to the 1960s, it wasn't against the law in the North, but still there were states in the South where it was against the law. So there are innumerable examples where the twin flame experience means that you have to be willing to go beyond logic, go beyond practicality, go beyond safety, go beyond ease, go beyond financial security, only if your intense love, passion, and devotion is so strong that you simply can't make another choice. It's like people say about acting. If you don't have to be an actor, don't be an actor, because it's a very difficult career. It's the same thing. If you don't long for the twin flame experience, if this is not something that you have longed for your whole adult life, and something that without this you will never feel that you've completed your experience on your deathbed, if you don't have that feeling, avoid it. Marry some nice person, have a nice little life, have nice kids, have a nice job, have a nice house. Don't set yourself up for this. But if you're like me, where love is everything, love is all there is, love is the answer, and every other platitude about love, then you don't have a choice. You have to go for it.
I think it's the ultimate goal for everybody underneath it all. It's just a matter of
She's
applying.
hopeful. No. I've scratched underneath the surface and facade to the deep underbelly of a lot of people, and there's no need for unconditional love there. There's a need for other stuff, honestly.
Okay, a reality check,
Honestly.
folks.
Yeah, sad but true. Sad. I tried. Yeah,
Well,
sad
thank
but
you
true.
for the clarity on that.
Yeah. It's like, did you remember as a kid, you would use crayons, all these bright colored crayons, and then after you did that, you use a black crayon,
Okay.
and then you'd scratch off the black crayon and you'd see pink and blue and yellow and whatever?
Okay.
Okay, no, sometimes it's just black under there. There's no color under there.
Okay, we're all responsible for our own lives and our desires to be fulfilled, or
Yeah,
perhaps not. and
There's
to
no
be
right,
happy.
there's no wrong. It's
Yeah.
whatever works for you.
Okay. Oh, I went back to my childhood for a moment. Okay, thank you, Susan. So, okay, what you're saying is the part of the twin flame experience is to guide and humanity actually to evolve.
Yes, that's certainly what we saw with Charles and Camilla, and he obviously needed a lot of pushing and prodding, that Charles. You know, he was not going for it. He was just too scared. And then in the beginning, when he proposed to her 30 years before, she, like any sensible person, didn't want any part of being a part of the royal family. So what ultimately happened is they discovered they couldn't live without each other. And they discovered it, and it was excruciating. And it was excruciating for a long time. Because here's the thing, you can't push your twin flame. You can't prod your twin flame. You can't play life coach, psychiatrist, forum leader with your twin flame. That person has to evolve and develop in his or own speed. You can, you know, kind of put something in front of them, but you can't push them. So that's the other tricky part. And when Camilla and Charles were finally motivated by this third party, there's a great article in Vanity Fair this month, when they were finally pushed into it, then they each had to go through the dark night of the soul. He had to take the chance that he might not ever become king. He might be, you know, the victim of backlash from the Princess Di, we love you, we miss you group. And of course, for Camilla, it was a huge, huge marketing and PR campaign to make her palatable and likable to the English public. So these kinds of things have a huge effect. What is the effect? We now see that Prince Harry is marrying an African-American young woman from America who's been divorced and who's an actress. So that's a huge shift in what everybody thought was possible in the British royal family. Evolution.
Yes. Oh boy, and a lot of history here too. Thank you, Susan. So I know that some people would say that focusing on unconditional love is impractical. Is it?
Yes, it's not practical. That's why we like it so much. It's exciting, it's thrilling, it's mind-blowing, it's shape-shifting, it's body-transforming. You know, there's a little bit of light in every one of the cells of your body. And when you experience the twin flame cosmic wave orgasm, all the lights in each of the cells in your body not only are blazing brightly, they are all communicating with one another. So that, if nothing else, is a reason to give this show a listen.
I'm lit up right now, Susan.
It's very, you know, Tantra is the very best solution to body rejuvenation. And it's the very best solution to mental and emotional rejuvenation, because you feel so good you want to live longer, as opposed to, you know, the show we did a couple of weeks ago, it's, you know, just sex. Don't settle for just sex. This show is the bookend. If you settle for just sex, it has a deadening effect on you over time. That's why men who hire sex workers are not ecstatic, happy, joyous beings. They have all sorts of stuff going on. Guilt and shame and confusion and loneliness, what have you. But the twin flame experience, that is the antidote to that. Joy, bliss, peace, pleasure, youthfulness, all of the above.
Boy, you can almost taste it. It's delightful to even think about.
Like ambrosia, nectar and ambrosia. It is, it is.
Everybody's getting heated up, I can tell.
Good.
No.
You better, because it's going to take some work for you to find this.
Now, what is it about the twin flame experience that includes the divine? And does that mean being in a twin flame relationship requires courage?
Yeah, this is a very crucial part of it. It is an evolutionary stage for each one of us. You know, you can't go from having a crummy job and suddenly wake up one morning and now you're the CFO of a corporation. You have to go through a lot of stuff to get there. You have to be willing. You have to do your work. This is an experience that is a divine connection. You have to have taken the time to learn how to connect to the divine. Some people are born with it, but most of us have to work for it. Once you are clear that you are experiencing the divine, then and only then can you ask the divine for something and receive it. You have to be so clear about what you're asking for. I have plenty of funny stories about myself where I didn't give the whole list and I got half the list. So you have to be so clear about this. You have to want to be in connection with God, the divine, oneness, divine light, whatever you call it, Jesus, whatever you call it. And then you have to practice this. You have to be there. You have to be present with it. And then in that state, you have to ask for your twin flame. You have to specify what that is for you. What is she? What is he for you? Because divine energy, Shakti, in Sanskrit, Shiva and Shakti, the desire is to fulfill your desire. That's the desire of the divine. So therefore, if we're clear about our desire, we're going to see, amazingly, you won't believe this, she's just what I asked for. Oh my goodness, he even has this. I can't believe it. Or the opposite. Where somebody say, I just wasted 4 years of my life, I don't understand. Well, look at the very beginning. Look to the flaw in the connection to the divine, or look to the incompletion of the list of the specificity of who you're looking for, what you call a divine flame. You get that handled, now you're going to find this person.
So once again, we do our inner work first, of course.
Yes, you bet. You bet.
That's a challenge in itself, Susan.
For a lot of people, they don't think it's important, or they never heard of it, or they don't know where to go to get it. But again, I teach all this. So, I think I'm the only person who teaches sex over the phone. Not on Skype, by the way. Regular, old-fashioned, non-visual phone. Because that way you'll tell the truth. If I'm going to start, not that I would wish to, but if I'm going to start giving tantric lessons to somebody that I can see who can see me, everyone's going to be lying. So when you have this gift of anonymity, you can really close your eyes and be present with what's alive in you. And be present with where you stopped yourself in your last relationship and where you're stopping yourself now. Because it doesn't change from your last relationship to your next relationship unless you do some very powerful work on it. And then it all starts to flow.
Beautiful. We're all encouraged by this. Now, what is it about the actual magnetic attraction that makes twin flames so different?
If you imagine the huge magnet in Switzerland, the gigantic one that is there as part of the Hadron Glider, that's a magnet. The planet Earth itself is magnetic. That's a magnet. If you think of your refrigerator magnet, well, it's a magnet, but it's not going to be able to pull up much, right? So we're talking about an intense magnetic charge. So intense that in certain cases, it literally can lift you up off of your feet and out of your life. And I know it did for me. I thought it was a twin flame relationship in the late 70s. It turned out it was theoretically for me, but not mutual. And so I didn't accept his marriage proposal because it would have just been one-sided to too much of a degree. But it literally picked me up and lifted me out of my life. The life that I had in New York, I couldn't continue with because this magnetism was so strong, I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't deny it.
Yeah, there you go. Reality checks no matter what. Now, how does one really hold on to the image of the magnificent partnership in the face of day-to-day reality?
Tricky. That's tricky. So there's a wonderful phrase from Werner. I don't have the exact words, but basically, most people deal with people's magnificence. You know, they enjoy that, and then they make a big fuss about all the garbage in the relationship. And Werner says it's the opposite is what you should be doing. You should deal with the garbage as if it's magnificent, and then you should just kind of not pay too much attention to the other stuff. In fact, if you treat somebody as if he is God, and if you treat someone as if she is God, what you will get is more God from them each time and each day. And if you want that the exact quote, just send me an email.
I love that, Susan. That's so very, very powerful. Okay, now what is the cosmic wave and how is it different for men and women?
Well, this is what I mentioned earlier. And if you've never heard of Tantra, this is the time you want to jump online and buy yourself a good Tantra book. And you want to read it and you want to memorize it, and it's your homework, and practice it. You don't want to be one of those people who's had a tantric book around for decades and hasn't mastered the stuff because just didn't see that the benefit was going to be a big enough benefit. So in a tantric book, what you're going to learn is you're going to learn how to make a deep soul connection with another human being, which is the beginning, the entry level to the cosmic wave, because nobody's going to be fully open and available to you, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, if you aren't seen as friend. You know, people see one another as friend or foe. They don't have to be in the military, but that's how they see it. So somebody needs to see you as friend and pull that all the way up to lover, all the way up to soulmate, all the way up to twin flame. When somebody sees you as a twin flame, now you have the opportunity of really exploring sexuality together in a way that I guarantee you've never done in your life, not ever in your life. And the result is that men can have full body orgasms. And only men who have practiced Tantra have experienced this. They just don't have this experience. They never heard of it. So yeah, I mean, it's great to have a normal orgasm, but it's very limited. So with this, you have an entire life transformative experience, and it can last for a very long time. And of course, the difference for women is that women can have the same full body orgasm that goes on and repeats again and again and again and again. And for both of you, this can be hours and hours of pure bliss in which time literally stands still. And time standing still is what most people describe to me as the moment they're in love, which may or may not be it. That's a biochemical surge when time stands still. But it feels like love, doesn't it? I know it does.
I'll agree to that. Now, can you tell us about Sting and Trudy and the, Tantra?
Sure. So everybody knows who Sting is, and Trudy Styler's his wife, and there was this very famous story circulating that they would have tantric sex for 8 hours. And it seems to be quite true. I mean, there's nothing shocking about it. I mean, it seems like a long time to me, and it seems like at some point you'd say, maybe 4 hours would be better, you know. Maybe 4 hours and maybe we take a walk, maybe we come back and have another 4 hours. But that was what they enjoyed doing. And Sting, you know, when he was with the Police, he was with every girl in the world. He had groupies, hot and cold groupies, you know, groupies to the left, groupies to the right. And that's what rock stars do. And she was with him. And over time, through Tantra, he was healed, their relationship was healed, and they are very much together today. So the healing aspect of Tantra is something that I want you guys to think about, because it's very important. To be with your twin flame, each of you has to have healed the pain of the past. But now think about this. The pain of the past and the past and the past and thousands of lifetimes, that's not easy. So that means you can always do some of the healing when you're together. If you're healed enough, you can be with your partner, be with your twin flame, and you can continue the healing in the process of this miraculous, loving relationship.
Boy, it's sounding better and better all the time. Now, if Tantra is part of the twin flame experience, how does it affect love? And is it important part of staying in love?
Well, first of all, I know we did a show on Tantra some time ago. I want to remind you, Tantra does not require love. Tantra requires that you get into a loving state in that moment. Now, what's fascinating to me is people who are really scared of making an emotional connection are very, very upset by this. This really triggers them because they don't want to get into this loving state and having a loving connection. Those of us who've been in love many times and people have loved us and we haven't and we loved them and they didn't, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all love. You know, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's mutual, sometimes it's not. But the important thing about Tantra is it's an entry-level practice, as well as being something that has the most advanced aspects of human sexuality included. So if this is new to you, start. And you'll be able to open your heart. You'll be able to feel some amount of love for any partner that you decide to make love with. And that is a huge step, because having your heart open like that means that you'll be that much more capable of expressing love to your soulmate or your twin flame partner when you're able to manifest them in front of you.
Okay, practice makes perfect.
It certainly does in sex. Certainly does in love.
Since twin flames find one another again and again, lifetime after lifetime, how can a man or a woman prepare to find magnetism and enjoy the twin flame relationship?
You have to really get yourself into your best state ever. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You could be in your teens looking for your twin flame. You know, you could be at Burning Man and you could be 30 and decide you want to find your twin flame. You could be Gigi and my age. It doesn't matter. You just have to make sure that in the moment that you make this decision, that you are finding this twin flame, this partner, this divine, ecstatic love now. You have to get so serious about consciousness. All the areas of unconsciousness in your life need to go right out the window. Right out the window. And your relationship needs a bigger purpose. So you're also going to have to find a bigger purpose. And I don't mean taking care of your dog as much as I worshipped and adored my dog. It has to be a purpose. This is a divine relationship. So what is the contribution that you're going to make to the divine? What are you going to do for humanity? That makes it so much easier to find and retain your twin flame relationship.
I love that. Thank you for bringing up the divine and how important that connection is before we actually connect with others on any level.
That's right. That's right.
Now, is there any dark side to having a twin flame relationship?
Well, of course, it's tempting not to be around anybody else when your relationship is so exquisite and ecstatic, you know, and eventually you will have to come up for air. So I do recommend that you get in the habit of coming up for air regularly, even in the beginning, because you want to start to have that support of friends, relatives, activities, you know, because you'll need it later. The other potential dark side is the confusion about who is and who isn't your twin flame. You know, when it feels really, really good to you, that's not enough. This is a huge part of it, because you cannot be in your ego. If you decide, as I have many times in my life, thinking, okay, maybe that is the person. No, that's not the person. But you can't be some person who jumps away, runs out the back door, does drama, gets angry, gets sad, gets scared, do all this weird stuff. I see clients who do this. I see them and I talk to them and they still do it, and it always, always backfires in their face. But you can intelligently, intuitively, and lovingly investigate whether someone is your twin flame in all the different ways that we investigate whether a relationship is. And when you hear something that triggers you, then I want you to be sure you mastered my 6-part conversation so you can have a conversation that's peaceful and motivating, so that you can find out, not quiz somebody, not demand, not insist, not force, but sweetly, lovingly, with vulnerability, with charm, with sex appeal, with passion, with caring, and with commitment. Stand in your love and see who the other person is. That's what you must do.
Boy, a lot of devotion here, right? Now, what about enslavement? If you really believe that, let's say, someone is your destiny and there's a huge possibility of feeling as if you have to behave a certain way, and that then you find out that actually they may not be your destiny at all.
But who are you enslaving yourself to? If you're being your best, if you're showing up in a conscious state at every moment, if you've left fear, anger, and sadness outside the door, if you've left knee-jerk reactive behaviors outside the door, then you are in love, you're showing who you are, you're showing up as your best self, you're conscious, you are presumably someone who's never appeared before. You've never been like this before because you've never been your best self and your true self before. And that, of course, is the healing property of love. The healing property of love is that when you are loved, when somebody sees you as this person you always believed you might be underneath all that stuff, doesn't it motivate you to get rid of all that stuff on top? Of course. That's the whole point. So being a lifelong learner, you've heard me talk about it often enough, is crucial. The only way to have a satisfying life is to commit yourself when you're very young to be a lifelong learner, because you're going to need it. As you get along the road, you're going to find some bumps and you're going to want to figure out what to do to avoid them.
Absolutely. Now, there is this statement our wonderful friend, Reverend Bernard Goodman, has made: him to you or you to him, or he just appears. No chasing. Now, does this apply to twin flames?
Absolutely. No chasing, no pushing. That's what I would add. So you can't chase, because if you're chasing, that means there's no mutuality. You just sit and you envision. That's what I always find in relationships that works anyway. If I want somebody to contact me and it's important to me, then I imagine that person contacting me in whatever way I prefer. I do this with friends, I do this with clients, I do this with everybody. And it's a habit you really need. So if you don't have this habit, you want to email me and you want to get the information, you want to practice this habit. But there's no pushing, so chasing isn't going to work, and it's important. It has to unfold with a degree of mutuality and clarity that is undeniable and irrefutable, so that you know that is what this is.
Thank you, Susan. The time is just flying. I can see that it's actually time for a clip, and this is about secrets to successful long-term relationships. Please enjoy.
In real life, you have to be able to calm yourself down before you communicate with other people if you want life to be enjoyable. If you want to have your pick of the people who are alive, you have to have skills.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, this weekend I was down in Los Angeles traffic. I had plenty of opportunities to do the self-empathy other than things that wouldn't be legal with other drivers on the road. So it takes practice, but it is something that is so joyful for our own health and well-being.
Yeah, and the health issue is another part that's so important. You know, if you calm yourself down before speaking, you're going to cut your arguments in half. If you learn how to calm yourself down before speaking and you also learn how to calm the other person down, you're now going to eliminate 97% of all the arguments you used to have. If you learn the whole 6-part conversation, including solution, how to motivate and inspire other people to the best solution that works for both of you or for anyone else involved, not only are you going to eliminate every single argument, but you're going to have many more of your needs met in life. And that money, career, love, friendship, where you live, who you live with, where you go on vacations, you name it. So the 6-part conversation isn't optional in my world, and certainly isn't in Gigi's either. You need to have these skills if you want to have the life you want to have.
Absolutely. Well worth all the practice to get to that place. Now, are there some solutions when we can really make a big difference in the relationship and times when we cannot?
Yeah, sure. If you're not able to calm yourself down, you will not be able to turn things around. Or if you just don't want to be bothered, you know, though no one can get me to fight if I don't want to, I am certainly not anyone that would be considered a punching bag. And my years of just giving in because I didn't want to argue with anybody are way behind me. So I make peace, and if the process of peace is taking much too long, or if I assess that the person really is deeply disturbed, then I am going to disconnect. If the person is those things that I've just described, and I don't care to have this person in my life anymore because it's just too costly, then I might have an argument if I want to. I might. I'm not saying that I'm unable to. I'm saying the choice, the conscious choice I make is it's not worth it to me. I mean, certainly road rage is a very dangerous thing for the person who's enraged. It's also dangerous for the rest of us. But it's mostly dangerous for the person who's in a rage because they're the one who's most likely to have a stroke or a heart disease. Boom, heart attack gone.
Another great reason to learn these skills,
You bet.
even if you want to just take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Well, I know that let's say, creating peace is that process. So is there any way to know how long it takes to learn enough skills to really create a peaceful relationship with someone?
You know, it's like an equation. So it depends on your level of communication skills to begin with. Then there's also the point of how desperate you are. How desperate is the situation? So language skills, actors, salespeople are the quickest students in what I teach. And that's because salespeople are very skilled communicators, and actors are very skilled communicators, and actors are a joy because they're used to taking direction. You know, that's why Lisa and Mary Beth are such a joy. They're used to taking direction, so they'll go with the flow. If I say, well, you know, giving someone empathy in this situation, you know, I'd suggest that you do a little bit more of this, they'll go, oh, sure, and then they'll do it because they're used to that. They want to be more effective in their performances or in their lives.
So the other part of it is desperation, right? So I once worked with a woman, actually, she used to live in Santa Barbara. She had gotten a horrible divorce. She had gotten a very bad settlement, and she had 3 very small children, and she did not have enough money coming in. She was working as a yoga teacher, and she had a husband who was very successful, and because of certain things in the court situation before I met her, her settlement arrangement was atrocious. And she only had enough money for 2 sessions. So 2 sessions plus the free one that I give. In 3 sessions, she was able to motivate and inspire her former husband to take a walk with her. During the walk, she was able to motivate and inspire him to agree to give her an additional $1,000 a month, which he agreed to do, and he did it for a long time. And about 2 years later, she came back to Santa Barbara and visited me, and I said, I'd love to hear how your skills are. And she said to me, what skills? So the message of this is, under an emergency situation, she was able to motivate and inspire her husband. She got the $1,000 a month more, but she never had skills. It's like cramming for an exam. And you know that in the fullness of time, with 3 children and with, and with all the things that happen in life, you know that she's, going to wish she had those skills. So please consider really carefully if you don't want to learn them and master them, so that you can, have the kind of life that Gigi and I each have.
Wonderful clip, Susan. And once again, highly informative. Well, now moving on, we have a lot of ground to cover and a little bit of time here.
Okay.
And so let's just say that once you find this amazing, miraculous person who is the man or the woman that you have dreamed about, I hate to say this, but can you ruin it? Oh, no.
This is such an interesting question, This is so interesting. Of course, you can make things very difficult for both of you. You can make things very difficult for yourself. That doesn't take too much work. And you can also make relationships difficult for people you love. More importantly, if you don't have the skills that we were talking about, the 6-part conversation skills, then it's almost impossible for any relationship to be completely smooth. Thank you, Fred, for putting that up on the screen. These skills change everything. So if you don't know them yet, if this is the first time you're watching this show, you really want to email me and you really want to get this. You really want to learn this.
Yes, I refer to this list of yours, Susan, daily. It helps me with clarity. And I'd also like to say Susan is the one that contributed in nonviolent communication, the self-empathy, I think the most important ingredient before we speak out. Thank you, dear. Now, how do you protect a very precious relationship?
Now, one of the most important things is you never gossip. You never gossip. Now, I don't mean that you are secretive. I don't mean that you don't share your joy and share your happiness. You never gossip. Gossip is negative words. So you can share your happiness with your friends because, boy, is it going to be inspiring for all of them. Boy, are they going to feel thrilled to know that if you found it and they think there's so much more together than you, then they could find it as well. And it's true, they can. So the danger is negative words. People will say to me, and my mother doesn't like him. And I'll say, really, how many times did your mother meet him? Oh, she's never met him. So we know that the mother, if she doesn't like him, it's because of what the girlfriend said about him. So there's nothing about gossiping that is ever going to be beneficial. Now, the second thing is, you don't want to talk about the relationship so much once it's happening, once it's stabilized, once it's real, that all of the life force goes out of it, just flies out the window. I see this a lot with people who have a transformation experience with a meditation master, with Howard Wills, with some divine connection. you can't keep talking about it, because every time you talk about it, we know, every time you talk about something, you change it. That's a proven fact. And so if you want it to stay real and alive and powerful, you want to be really vigilant. Don't talk about it so much. So keep your own counsel.
Keep your cup filled up. Now, I know that you have said that for twin flames, you can become they can become total bliss. I love that. But with a few bumps in the road, is that really possible?
Yeah, life has bumps in the road. People may have a health issue. People may have a financial issue. A family member may have an issue. But imagine the joy of facing whatever you have to face when you have somebody who is your other self. And I don't just mean a biological twin. I don't even mean a Siamese twin, heaven forbid. But I mean somebody whose body, mind, and spirit are evolved in the same way that yours are evolved. That's a different thing. It must be wonderful to have a twin. It must be spectacular to have a twin, identical twin, because then they're psychically connected. But this is more even than that.
That's good to know, too. There's hope for everybody. That's what's so fascinating. Now, how can letting your ego take over absolutely destroy a twin flame relationship?
Your ego can destroy everything. Your ego can destroy everything. If you don't like the way a day is going or an hour is going, you have to calm yourself down. You have to communicate with your partner in a loving way to discover what's going on with your partner, what changes we can both make in order to have a wonderful day. If you know anyone who does that, please send me their name. They deserve a prize. Because I've been teaching this now for about 19 years, and the only people I've ever met who can do this are people I've taught. And Marshall. That's about it. A couple of people who have taken Marshall's work, nonviolent communication, but really not most of them. So this is a skill level that allows us to create love. It allows us to stay in love. It allows us to generate more love. It allows us to have a level of compassion and caring and kindness and generosity of spirit, and I don't see this very much yet. It's an evolutionary stage that most people haven't risen to yet. So the problem you've got is somebody's going to say something you don't like, and you're going to think, oh, I can just snap at him because that's what I did in my last 7 relationships. And the truth is, you'll pay a heavy price, a heavy price. And it doesn't matter if you're a woman or you're a man, it has nothing to do with that. It's anger, temper, disconnection, precipitous disconnection, people who walk out of a room, people who slam down a phone, people who leave the bedroom. None of these things include a relationship. People who may not leave the bedroom but aren't physically present in the bedroom, aren't emotionally present there, aren't spiritually present there. These are all the things that destroy every relationship. A twin flame has more resilience. They're going to stick around longer. But they may, at some point, I know people who've said, she just wasn't ready for me. And I'm not going to waste this whole lifetime hoping that she's going to wake up one day.
Perfectly said. Or he's not ready. Either way. I know you help clients actually find their twin flame, Susan, and you teach them how to protect and preserve the relationship. Please speak about that.
Well, the first thing about finding your twin flame is do not get distracted. If you want a great job, don't take a crummy job. If you're looking for a great friend, don't settle for someone who's not a great friend. You have to really be vigilant. How serious is this? I don't think there's anything more serious, frankly, neither does Gigi, but that's us. We're very lower right brain people. We're very heart-centered people. But if this is what you want, then this is your goal. You have to do a lot in order to reach goals. I teach goal-reaching skills. You have to be focused on it. You have to be committed. You have to be determined. You have to do every single thing you know how to do to make yourself ready for that twin flame. And then you have to do every single thing you can learn how to do to find that person or allow that person to find you. It is not enough to, quote, let it happen. I have heard so many crazy, crazy misinterpretations of a relationship that I had some time ago where people talked about it just, oh, you didn't do anything, which was as far from the truth as anything I can tell you. It's just that I've been practicing goal reaching for 40 years when I first started to do it, maybe longer. So now when I said, God, please bring me, very, very often that arrives. But that's not me doing nothing. That's not me sitting in a chair or watching television. That's me doing the inner work that I want very much to teach you guys as well.
I must admit, I have pretty much a continuous conversation with God internally. I don't know who started it, but it's going on.
Yes, exactly, yes.
So for a couple, let's say, with twin flames, I would imagine that they would be most concerned to stay connected during and after death and return together. And I bet you know a way to do that.
There's a lot that is included in preparation for death. Preparation for death yourself. And if you are someone listening to this program who has a deep spiritual bent, then you definitely want me to teach you about this. You definitely want me to send you an email about it. Because about 10 days before death, the soul starts to enter what the Buddhists call the bardos. So you start to prepare for that journey. There are things you need to do as you are entering the bardos to prepare for where you're going to come out on the other end in your next lifetime. And of course, you need to have all these conversations with your partner, and you need to be doing this together so that you don't lose each other. It's very easy to lose yourself when you're out of the body traveling, in all these exotic ways that you've never remembered doing before. So it's very, very important to make this a goal. And when you make something a goal, you change the way you think about it, that you change the actions you take, you do research, and it's certainly true about reincarnating with your twin flame.
That is so exciting. And I'm sure a lot of people are very happy to hear that. Now, how does experience twin flame create cellular rejuvenation?
Well, again, you have these bits of light in each cell in your body. When you are connected to the divine, the life force pours into you, depending on the quality of connection. Then when you are in a Shiva-Shakti relationship, yin-yang relationship, now the energy is flowing in you and to your partner and back again to the divine. The energy is coming from your divine into your partner, into you, back to the divine. You form a perfect circle. That's what doesn't work about relationships that are not monogamous. That's what doesn't work. If you are a divine being who is connected consciously to the divine, you wouldn't want to be in a non-monogamous relationship. But you also wouldn't keep dead wood around the house. You wouldn't be someone who says, oh, I gave my word and I'm not supposed to do anything. And I did that for a couple of years with my second husband, and that was just ridiculous. That was just a level of, antiquated Puritanism on my part. I was just really confused. And you know my story, so you know it didn't pay off. Boy, did it not pay off. So it is about the living force of you and your partner who are a living entity, a living, breathing entity, connected to the divine and with bodies. So the divine life force comes in and cycles, and in and cycles, and in and cycles. And In Tantra, there are different breathing exercises that you can do that will allow you to enhance the divine breath and share the divine breath. And all of this deepens and intensifies the magnetism between you, the electricity between you, and the bliss that exists between you. And whether you're going to be like Sting and Trudy Styler, who are staying in that bliss for 8 hours, or you just want to be in that bliss for 15 minutes, it's still, in my experience, a greater bliss than anybody has ever experienced when they haven't learned, practiced, and mastered Tantra.
Thank you, Susan. I think everybody has an appetite to be able to learn this and enjoy it. I know I do.
I would have to say, if this show didn't excite you and make you want to run out and send me an email about these skills or run out and buy a book on Tantra, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
They just need a nap, maybe. Now, I would just like to say that if you have Susan's recipe for twin flames bliss, you can really experience a lifetime of joy, which we all want. And please remember that Susan really, really offers a wonderful 1 free hour session, so you really can't ask her anything. Believe me, she's heard it all. Right?
Yes.
For me alone. No.
Yes.
Now, a little bit about Susan. Susan Allan is a life coach, many other things going on here. Susan's website, heartspacesolutions.com, and her email, susan@susanallan.org. And you can go to youtube.com/SusanAllan2001. And the hot free phone number here, 805-695-8405.